All right. So on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, that is love themed because Valentine's Day did just, pass by. I have two amazing special guests on my show. We have the politician and IWA champion, Dexter Roswell, and his husband, Logan. How are you guys doing?
We're doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. Can't complain. So yeah, like it's just, just chilling out and just doing me, and I'm just happy to have you guys on my show because I met you guys backstage at the last BellaDonna division show. And I was just like hearing you guys' story and seeing you guys back there, with each other just really was just like really cool. So I was like, so if I'm going to do anything, for Valentine's Day, I know I wanted, either a couple of couples or maybe like just one couple at least on my show because I feel like love and wrestling is a very, cool topic to talk about. So, yeah, I'm so happy you guys are on.
We are
So,
too.
great. So well, I'm gonna start by asking you guys, when did you fall in love with wrestling?
Oh God.
Oh gosh. I'll go ahead and start out. So I started watching wrestling when I was 7 years old. I remember just flipping through the TV and coming across wrestling. It was Monday Night Raw, and I think it was like Stone Cold versus Steve Blackman, the most random of matches. So nothing that had any implications on anything, but it caught my attention, and I just kept watching it week after week and falling more and more in love with it.
Oh gosh. I mean, I was young, but I think it was a Trish Stratus match. Actually, it was when I know, right? I want to say probably about the same age, really.
Okay.
I feel like it was a long time ago.
Yeah, that's kind of what it feels like when you sit and think about when you first started, and then you think about where you are now. You're just like, dang, like I've really been in this thing this long.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when you start talking decades of watching it, that's when you know you've watched it for a while.
Makes you feel old.
Yeah, it does. And then they start referencing things from the past, and you're just, wait a minute, that's not the past, is it? But then you think about it and you're like, oh yeah, that was forever ago. Dang, I am getting old.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whenever I started watching wrestling, like I started going back and watching matches from before I was born and before I started watching wrestling. So I can kind of reference those as well, but not alive in the moment for those.
Yeah, definitely. So, Dexter, I want to ask you, when did you decide that you wanted to make wrestling like your life's work?
Well, like most wrestling fans, they've always wanted to try it in some capacity, but I just never thought that I would do it. I live in Southern Illinois, so there isn't much wrestling down here, or so I thought. So it was about whenever I was 24, turning 25, when I was just going through our mall in Marion, Illinois, and I came across Stride Pro Wrestling. And like I remember walking through there and seeing like the store front, they had black tarps over it, and I was like, what in the world is going on here? What, so I look and I see it's a flyer for wrestling. So like it was about an hour until the show started, so I just sat there and waited, because I was like, what else am I going to do? Go home and sit down and watch TV? Might as well watch it in person. So went to that first show, ended up knowing a few people there just from living in the same town as them. And at the time, me and my friend, we were doing a podcast about wrestling, and we were going to see about getting the guy that runs the show, Keith Hatton, on there. So we were talking back and forth. It never actually happened because the podcast kind of went away after that because I started focusing on actually training for wrestling. So, and that's a decision that I'll never regret.
Okay. And I do remember you were telling me that Logan, you're actually starting training for wrestling as well?
Yes, actually. I've had about five training sessions so far.
Okay. So how are you so what drew you to that decision for yourself?
Well, I've always wanted to do it before. Never really kind of stepped out and just done it. I mean, it was like about five more years ago. I have a friend, he works at a company in Omaha, Nebraska, and I was like, oh man, I could do this. I went to the show, I'm like, I could do this, and then just never did it. And we ended up meeting, and wrestling's part of the reason we fell in love with each other. And about 2 years later, I'm just like, I want to try this, so I'm just giving it a try, giving it a go, and seeing how it works out for me.
Okay, that's really cool that you've decided to, make this your life as Dexter has made it his. So I guess one day down the line, y'all will tag team with each other?
Or face off against each other.
Either or. I mean, is that something y'all are open to?
He always jokes about us being the first Mr. and Mr. of wrestling.
Oh, that would be amazing. Like I feel like that's necessary at this point. Because I mean, I feel like it's absolutely possible.
Oh,
like,
oh, yeah.
I would love that.
Like
that would be so cool.
The power couple.
Yes, that would be amazing. So you guys were talking about how wrestling was kind of the reason why you guys fell in love with each other. So how exactly did you two meet?
Well, we actually met on a dating app.
Mm-hmm.
And actually a lot of guys use this app just to, just meet people and, do the deed. But we actually met and we started talking, and he's like, well, I'm actually up in your area. I'm a professional wrestler. And I was like, okay, say what? You're a wrestler? Okay, I'm intrigued here. And he's like, I'll send you some pictures of what I wrestle in. So he sends them, and he goes, this is a suit. I wrestle in a suit. And I'm like, wait, what? This
not what he was expecting.
I was like, this is not what I was expecting. I'm like, a suit, huh? Oh yeah, I'm a politician gimmick. I was like, oh, this is gonna be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things that, like, I credit wrestling a lot for many things that have happened in my life, but like we said, it's one of the reasons why me and him are together, because where I wrestled at for IWA Unlimited, they're out of Noble, Illinois, and at the time you were in Vincennes, Indiana. So because I was at that show, it allowed us to be within a close enough distance to find each other on the app.
Mm-hmm.
So if it wasn't for wrestling, we wouldn't be together.
No.
Wow. So basically it was just meant to be in that way.
I think so.
I guess so.
Yeah, because y'all weren't, because it's
Luckily
just so because it's just like, it's funny because you weren't too far from each other, but at the same time it was almost just right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. And then I know a lot of people give a lot of flack to dating apps, but those are valid, like those are valid ways to meet people in some cases.
Oh yeah, I mean, especially in the areas that we're in, I mean, he's from Southern Illinois, so it's not a very open area with a lot of this. And coming from where I'm at, I'm used to everybody being, whatever, we don't care.
Mm-hmm. So, Dexter, when it comes to your wrestling career, when did you start training, and who was responsible for training you, and what was the best lesson that you ever learned while you were training?
Well, I started training, I remember the date. It was August 2nd, 2016. It's one of the days like I won't forget, because I'm actually starting to do something that I've wanted to do for so long and never thought I'd get a chance to. So that's definitely a date that sticks out to me. And my primary trainer was Heath Hatton. As I mentioned earlier, he runs and owns Stride Pro Wrestling out of now Carterville, Illinois. And I mean, I can't say enough good things about the training program. He really took his time with us and patient with us, even especially when you're new, sometimes it takes a while to get to things. Mm-hmm. But probably the biggest lesson I learned out of it is that I can actually do anything if I put my mind to it. Like, for the longest time, like, I had a lot of doubts. Like, if I couldn't do anything, or maybe didn't do it to the best of my ability, or so I thought, I may have been like, okay, maybe this isn't for me, let me move on. But this is something that I stuck with, and now I'm 5.5 years into it, and I love it more now than I did when I first started. So yeah, probably just believing in myself is probably one of the biggest things that I've got out of this.
Yeah, that's really deep because, we all have, certain doubts, but it takes a lot to push past those doubts in order to try something new or even
Mhm.
to stay consistent at a thing that you may not have been good at first and you didn't think you would be good at, but then it takes a lot of strength to be able to persevere and continue to work on those challenges in order to get better. So, Logan, I think I would pose the same question to you, seeing as you're just starting.
Oh gosh. Well, let's see what that was 2 weeks ago.
The first week of February.
First week of February, I started on a Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
The trainer now is not the same guy that trained Dexter. His name is Roger.
Mm-hmm.
He actually occasionally works Thursdays down at OVW in Louisville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really enjoying it. He's very detail oriented, so I really like that. I feel comfortable saying no if I don't, feel comfortable doing something.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, I've found most of it so far kind of easy. I kind of credit having a previous athletic background. I used to do gymnastics, and I was an elite competitive all-star cheerleader. So kind of a lot of the jumping and flipping and everything is kind of coming a little easy. There's been a couple things that I've been struggling with, but I think if I just keep my mind to it, I think I won't have any issues. Hopefully.
And like you said, that's one of the good things. You did have an athletic background going into it.
Yeah.
Me, I did not. I did no type of sports or anything like that. So I will tell a funny story on myself because why not? The first day of practice, we were learning how to take bumps. So everybody knows, or at least the people within wrestling, tuck your chin, because if you don't, you're going to get whiplash and smack your head and possible concussions.
Mm-hmm.
So kept doing that. So we were with a mixed martial arts company at the time. They were doing like half the building, and we were having our part too. So we just grabbed some of the headgear to put on. And me, again, not having any type of athletic background, I proceeded to put the thing on backwards. So yeah, I still get flack to that to this day.
Well, I mean, you got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
You have to start somewhere. And the thing about wrestling is that it may have its flaws at times, but the thing about wrestling that I love is the fact that it's one of those sports that you can try regardless of what your background is. Because it's like you have people like Logan, who were, in gymnastics, which is pretty high powered stuff. Like I've watched gymnastics, in the past, and is pretty, and I also have friends, that I went to college with who participated in that. And it is really extreme, and I respect it so much, and it's amazing to watch. So if you have that type of focus on that, then applying that to wrestling would be really good. So it's just, and then you have other people who have other athletic backgrounds in other sports like football or track and other stuff. And that, works well for them in wrestling. And then you have other people who had never tried it before, but then they give it a go and they wind up, excelling at it as well. So I think that's cool that the both of you, collectively have those stories of, one having athletic background and one not, but then still, making the best of, whatever it is, wherever it is that you did start, and then you can continue to move forward and figure out, what that means for you as an athlete. I think that's cool.
Yeah. And he also gets the added benefit of living with a wrestler too. So we get to work on lockups and chaining and different stuff like that whenever we want to. So he gets a little leg up on that as well.
As long as I don't give him any more bruises.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I think that's great that you guys train together. Like, I always think that's amazing when wrestlers who just so happen to be, couples, train together and help each other get better. Like, that's cool. I love that. Like, that's really amazing.
Because I'm always going to want him to do the best, like in life, just not in ring either. So we went up to the ring one day last week, and we kind of went through a lot of things that he had already learned pretty quickly, and he got blown up, and I was like, okay, ready to go. Let's do some more. He was like, I need a break.
Oh, that's sweet. All right, so Dexter, what I will ask you is, since you're sort of the more seasoned wrestler in a sense, had you faced any other obstacles as you've sort of matriculated through wrestling, and how did you overcome them?
I wouldn't necessarily say I had any obstacles to overcome per se. I try to keep pretty level-headed when it comes to wrestling. I mean, like with most people, there's times that I've been jealous of other people's success, but like I have to just realize we're here all doing the same thing. So we need to build each other up and not be worried about, oh, why didn't I get this shot, or why didn't I get to go for this title? You know, like the main thing is making sure the crowd is entertained. Because when it comes down to it, like we put our bodies on the line for the entertainment of the crowd. And once I got that in my head, I was like, okay, I don't need to worry about any of that stuff. I just need to focus on what I'm doing, getting better in the ring, getting better, doing promos, interacting with the crowd, different things like that. And I feel like I really have over the last year. But yeah, I can't think of really anything that I've had to overcome obstacle wise. Can you think of anything?
I mean, personally, for me, I think maybe an obstacle for you was being an openly gay wrestler.
Yeah. But I will say, like, even though I do live in the Southern Illinois region, which typically isn't the most accepting, I've had nothing but like love and support from the people that have been around me. Like,
yeah,
I was really worried about coming out because, I mean, it is such a physical sport and you're really like getting close with everybody. And the old saying and everything is like baby oiled men and like half naked wrestling around. You know, it already has the stigma as it is. But like I credit everybody that I've worked with for going above and beyond, making me feel welcomed, and really not even changing anything. If anything, strengthening my friendships with people. And I mean, and I can't thank those people enough.
Yeah, I think it's great that when you have a community that sort of shows you love, in the sense that you're already, sort of othered when you are a wrestling fan or you are a wrestler, because not that many people do that for a living. But then on top of that, when you're also othered because of who you are as a person and how you identify, there's like another added pressure to that. So it is important, to surround yourself with people who do see you for who you truly are and, love you for who you are. And I'm glad that you have that community, in your husband and in other people who like working with you. Because, I mean, a lot of stories, I feel like some of the stories that we don't hear a whole lot are the struggles of those who may not necessarily, identify as straight.
Yeah.
And so the idea that you're on here and even telling your story now is a pretty powerful thing. So at least now I know that, you feel a sense of comfort because you found, your community of people who will show you love. And if there's ever a point where somebody tries to, I hope you haven't experienced anyone being mean to you because of that.
Not directly within the wrestling community. Some fans kind of have not went out of their way, but I'll just tell a story. I was working at a company and like I come out in a suit, fixed up hair, clean cut and all that. And when I came out, they started chanting the F word.
Oh no.
Which I know it wasn't directed to me as a person. It was more just as an insult, but I hate that term has been so closely associated with something to hurt people. But like, I just had to realize like these people have no, I don't even know what the word to say, like meaning in my life besides trying to entertain them. So it didn't really bother me that much. Now, some of the people in the back who are not happy about it, people were apologizing to me for the fans and everything. I was like, I get it. And I'm so happy that you guys feel this way, but I see it differently because I know they're not directing it directly to me as a person.
Yeah. And even in hearing that, I understand like that has to be still hurtful to a degree, because that is a very hurtful word. Like it makes me mad whenever I see situations like that. Even outside of wrestling where stuff like that happens, I'm just like, why? Just why?
But one thing we can do, like some of my friends have used that word before in a derogatory term, never towards me, but just in general, and I've heard it. I always tell them, hey, I don't want you to use that word, but if you're going to use it, don't use it around me. So we also have a responsibility to educate people as well, like not to use that word because of the derogatory meaning behind it.
Right. And Logan, is there has that affected you in any way in terms of, watching him perform and having to deal with stuff like that?
Let me just say, I feel sorry for anybody who ever says that, because
there's been a few times I've heard a couple fans that I was ready to throw down, but I was like, I need to take a step back. I just think a lot of it, for our area, a lot of people, one, they're not used to being around same-sex couples. And I think a lot of it's just education. And, you don't always have to agree with how someone lives their lives, but I mean, at least educate yourself so that you have an understanding. I mean, like I always tell people, feel free to ask questions. I don't care to answer them. You don't have to 100% agree with it. But I mean, if you're talking to me and you're my friend, then obviously you do like me. So, you're going to have some type of acceptance, with my lifestyle and with who I'm married to. Like I said, a lot of it just comes back to education, just being educated, ask questions, just so that you have an understanding. You don't have to 100% support it. Just educate.
and the thing is, it's just a small part of who we are as people. I remember hearing a song. It was called "Define Me." I don't even remember who sings it, but it's like, don't define me just for this one thing. Like, I'm so much more than being a homosexual, being gay, whatever you want to call it. Like, I'm still the same person as I was before I came out. Just now that I'm saying that I'm gay, it shouldn't change anything.
Yeah, it really shouldn't. And I just know, I'm speaking, for myself. I know I was raised, to love everyone. And I just know for me in my heart, I just try to do my best to make people feel safe and comfortable in who they are, because I just know I wouldn't want to feel unsafe in who I am. So I just try to, give, everyone that same treatment. So here on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and in life, you guys have met me. I love you. And that's really all that.
We love you too.
Yeah, that's all that's important. So this is a love-based place, and I hope that you feel safe with me. And that's really all I can do, because we can't really control other people, but we can control ourselves.
Exactly.
So yes, definitely. So how would you say the independent wrestling scene has treated you since you started, Dexter?
Pretty well. I mean, whenever I first started, it was probably about 4 months into my training, I was given the politician gimmick to work. And crowds do not like politicians. I'll say that. So, I think a lot of the fans, most of them now, kind of know what's going on, but you still want to help try to just suspend disbelief to, give them the best show that you can. So I think they see our hard work that we put out there, and they just give it right back to us, whether it's you wanting to be cheered or booed. I think it's a little bit easier to get booed, but because it's so much easier to have somebody not like you than to like you. But yeah, most of the time I've been a bad guy, but at IWA Productions and BellaDonna, I am a good guy, and I like it because it's a challenge.
Okay. And Logan, have you, I know you're still just starting and everything, but have you thrown around any ideas as to what type of character you would like to have?
Oh gosh. I don't want to jinx myself with it yet, I mean, I want to be someone that, I want to be I want to be a face. I want to be someone with bright colors and kind of, has them catchy little sayings, and it's fun. I want to have that upbeat, come out to upbeat music. And, I probably wouldn't mind going bad one day, but so far, I mean, I'm still just kind of trying to find myself and where I fit in with all of it. So I've ran different ideas. Might have created myself on my wrestling game.
Multiple times.
Multiple times.
But that is one thing that does helping you try to figure out your character. Kind of using that, because it's there, might as well use it. Seeing kind of, okay, I like this look, but I don't like that color scheme with that one. You know, you can kind of play around with it before you go full-fledged and have somebody make you bigger.
You know, you're like this is like the kind of like the third conversation I've had that's centered in wrestling and video games. Because all last weekend I was talking to people and how much they love video games and how much they love wrestling and how that's sort of tied together. So maybe at some point I should, you know, like talk and deep dive more into wrestling and video games. But I think that is a very valid way to sort of, you know, stick to like certain characters or something like that if you're being a creative in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So Logan, you do have time though. Like that's the beauty of it. Since you have started, you do have, you know, time to sort of think of things and figure out what works and what doesn't. But I'm pretty sure it's going to be really cool, you know, when you do. So that's going to be great. So, Dexter, would you say that you have a strong fan base as of yet?
I think so. I have several people that follow me religiously as far as like on all my social medias, which you have been helping with.
Kind of took over.
And like there's been a lot of people that come out and support me. Like for the longest time, my parents came to every show that I've went to, but with COVID and everything and their immunity being kind of down, they haven't been to any shows lately, but they are going to start coming back once things get a little bit better. But then I always have a few fans that I have in mind that are always either cheering me or booing me, whatever needs to. And just like, I love the fan support.
That's cool that you have that support, and then also the people who don't support you as well, and boo you or whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, without those fans, I mean, if you don't know, or if you're not getting a reaction, then I guess that's not, you know, working.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you're not getting a reaction out of them, then that's not really working. So I'm glad that at least that you do have people who love you and then people who don't like you, because at least now you know that you're getting a rise out of people either way.
Yeah, and I mentioned my parents whenever I first started. My mom was worried that I'd get hurt and everything. So I remember the first show I went to, she was like half kind of looking through her eyes, you know, as I was doing all this stuff. And they got more comfortable with it. But like I had to tell them, hey, I'm going to be this bad guy politician. So kind of go along with it and boo me and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started getting put into the shows to a degree. Everybody knew my parents especially my mom, is Dexter's mom. So then they could cheer me whenever they wanted to, even if I was a bad guy. But it's been fun having. I remember one time in particular, I was doing a paddle on a pole match, and the guy I was facing, I was fighting him on the ringside. I took him over to my mom, and I had my hands behind, like holding him down so my mom could slap him. Of course, you know, it backfires on me. She ducks, my head goes forward, and she ends up slapping me. Which I remember asking her, like, "Hey, are you cool with this spot?" She's like, "Yeah." I'm like, you know, you could have put a little pause there and been like, "No, I don't really want to, but if you want me to." No, she went straight for, "Yeah, I'll do it."
That's cool. So basically, you could have a Dexter's mom. That she should have a T-shirt that says Dexter's mom.
We really should.
Or Dexter's dad. Or
we are working on expanding Dexter's merchandising, so that may be one that comes out.
Oh, that should definitely be a thing. I think that's cute. And I just love it. Now, I know my parents, I know if I was a wrestler, thankfully I'm just a commentator / interviewer. So I don't have to get violent with people. But I'm pretty sure like if my parents,
just wait for the day. It could come.
Oh God, it could. But you know, it's just that if my parents were into that sort of thing, like if they were watching me do that, they would be like, "Go Stephanie, go." Or it would either be "Go Stephanie, go," or "I'm gonna intervene on your behalf." because I really don't fight. Like, I'm not a violent person. It's just like, I wouldn't know what to do if somebody told me one day, oh, you're going to have to fight this person. I'd be like, what? I hate confrontation. Like, I hate confrontation. So I just be like, oh God, okay. But I might get into it a little bit. I don't know. But I feel like my parents would be they would either be laughing at it or they'd want to intervene on my behalf. But it's cool that your parents are into it and stuff. That's great.
Yeah.
So have you guys
Oh, sorry. And your parents,
Yeah.
they've been to some of my shows too.
They've been to some of them.
Oh man.
Not into it, surprisingly.
I told him I was training, and my dad goes, "What, are you going to be a famous wrestler like Dexter now?"
Oh, that's so sweet. Shout out to the in-laws. Yay. So, how would you say wrestling sort of brought you guys closer together? And if there are any challenges that wrestling brings to you guys as a married couple?
Well, I think, like, personally, wrestling just brought us closer just because we get to spend more time together. Since it is something that we both like a lot, we watch it together, we talk about it together, we do it together now. I love doing all the traveling and meeting everybody, meeting the different people, making new friends, creating contacts. Like, I love all of that. So I just feel like just everything in general, collecting the action figures, it's just, I just think it's all just 100% brought us together. I don't really feel like there's a whole lot of challenges with it. Because, like, there's some days he goes to wrestling and I stay home. And I'm just like, okay, have fun. I'll be at home. I'll see you when you come home because I know where you're coming, where you're going.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't feel like there's any real challenges that have caused, like, a roadblock in our relationship. Like you said, if anything, it's made it stronger because we do get to spend more time with each other for good or for bad sometimes. but no, like I appreciate the fact that, like, he was into wrestling beforehand and was so supportive of my career, and if I needed to go somewhere for a show, he'd be like, okay, when are we leaving? So I think just that, especially in the formative stages of our relationship, him being that supportive, that, like, I think really built us closer.
Yeah, like, I know from personal experience, it's great to have a partner that supports your thing, whatever it is. Because I know in the case of me and my relationship, my boyfriend, he was very supportive of me sort of starting my wrestling podcast, even though I had been a fan my entire life, and wrestling was actually what brought us together. In our collective fandom. But it's just that when I said I wanted to start a podcast and start doing commentary or whatever, it really does help. And it gives you sort of like an extra set of wings when you have a supportive partner. Like, it makes you feel like, you can almost like do anything because, the person that you love really believes in you, and what you can do, even on the days where you don't believe in you and you're just like, oh my God, I can't do this. He's like, yes, you can, stop it. And it's just really great, to have that extra set of wings. And that person who really does believe in what you can do. And it's great that you guys have built that, support system, very early. So now that you guys have it, all you can do is continue to build on that foundation and make a beautiful brick house out of it. So yeah, I started the foundation thing and I had to finish. I had to finish it and just make it make sense. So yeah, that's a beautiful thing.
I feel like lately I can think of, like, examples that both of us have had separately to where we've both doubted what we've been doing. Like, are we doing enough? Are we doing this or that? And the other person has been there and been like, yes, you're doing fine. Keep going. It's your head telling you that you're doing bad.
Right.
From an outside perspective, somebody who is seeing you do this, you're doing fine. So having that communication to where we can be like, keep up the good work, you're doing great, all this stuff, but also that really sucked, don't do that move again, stuff like that. But you have to have that good and that bad, because especially within wrestling, you have to be able to take constructive criticism.
Oh yeah.
So as hard as I'm going to be on myself, he's going to be hard on me as well.
Oh,
and vice versa.
I tell him all the time, I'm your biggest fan, but I'm your biggest critic, and I'm going to tear you down first before everybody else tears you down, because I feel like if I tell you that was the worst crap I've ever seen in my entire life and you need to fix it, it kind of hits you harder coming from me, kind of hurts your feelings a little bit more, but you're going to have a bit better like defense and wall against somebody telling you, oh, you suck.
Yeah, definitely. And wrestling is about that constructive criticism, but it's good that you guys have each other to sort of be honest, with each other about things, especially even in wrestling. And so you guys are sort of preparing each other to sort of face the world and face all of the things that the wrestling business has to offer in terms of that. So that's really good. And I'm glad that you guys have that in each other. And speaking of that, wait a minute. I think I lost my thought. What happened? Okay. Because you guys said something and it really triggered like a thought in me. And then all of a sudden I just lost it. And now I'm mad. Yeah. So what I will ask you is, what is your favorite thing to do together outside of wrestling?
Oh, gosh. We don't do a lot outside of wrestling, honestly. Probably just hanging out with friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like before I met him, before I got into wrestling, like I wasn't very social. So he has definitely brought that out of me. So we always try to make time for our friends and family, because without them, what else would we do and who else would be there to support us? So like we have a good close knit group of friends that we try to hang out with as much as possible.
Okay. So basically, Logan was just like, okay, we need to hang out with our people more. And then you're just like, yeah.
Oh, no, I moved in and this man had blackout curtains over every window. And I'm like, nope, we need to brighten it up in here. He was so antisocial that it was blackout curtains everywhere. And I'm like, do you not have nice neighbors?
I had nice neighbors, but I also didn't like the sun beating down in my face, especially when I was trying to sleep or relax on the couch.
That sounds a lot like me and my boyfriend, because I love light and he has it dark, but he has it dark for another reason though. Like he gets migraines. So it's just like, I totally, understand it from that perspective. But in the first few months of our relationship, I was just like, I
need to open these curtains.
Like, why is it so dark? Why can't we go outside? What's going on?
I feel like I would really like him though.
So yeah. How do you guys feel about the state of wrestling now?
That's kind of hard to answer because we don't really watch much wrestling, surprisingly. Ever since I got into wrestling, I start watching it differently. So I watch it still as a fan to a degree, but at the same time, I'm also thinking, oh, I like that move. I wonder if I could do it. Or, oh, they did this wrong and like they weren't in the right position or something like that. So sometimes like
I'm opposite,
trying to like flip that switch to where it's like, okay, I want to flip the switch to where I'm just a fan so I can watch wrestling. But I'm so glad that there are multiple companies out there that are doing well, because competition is only going to bring out the best in everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And it just gives people more places to go as well. So like, I like it, but I wish I could just watch it differently.
I watch it. I watch it without him. I just said I sit and watch videos by myself. Either it's just to be a fan or to learn, kind of watching how everybody does everything, lockups and everything. I think the state of wrestling is really wild now, especially when it comes to the female competitors. I'm a big women's wrestling fan, so I am all about this women's evolution and the change in women's wrestling in general. It's come such a far way, but I get mad though when I'm watching certain pay-per-views still, because I'm just like, no, that person doesn't need it. They don't deserve it.
As we all do at certain times, right?
Yeah.
And watching wrestling, I will say this to Dexter's point, like watching wrestling, even as a journalist at times, and also, as a fan, it's like you're sort of, as a professional, you're sort of trying to find that, or at least I'm still trying to sort of find that line between being a fan and enjoying it, and also still knowing sort of the nooks and crannies of, the underbelly of wrestling. and you're just sort of like, you know what, I kind of, a part of me wants to just enjoy it at the same time, but then another part of me has to watch it from another, perspective, and it's really hard to navigate it. But you try to find your groove as best as you can when it comes to that. But sometimes you do have to turn the professional part off if you want to, enjoy things. And like you, Logan, I am definitely a women's wrestling fan. Like, I've been a women's wrestling fan, for such a long time, and I was a huge advocate for the women getting, the same amount of time and showing more athleticism, than their looks and stuff.
Yeah.
And once it started happening a lot more, that's not to say that it wasn't happening before, because it was happening in other companies before it hit the mainstream. But just the idea that, it's happening more and more and it's actually being celebrated, is making me feel really good and making me feel welcomed. But I am still hoping for more women, as storytellers and, as commentators as well. So people like me can have a chance and have a job and have other opportunities and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm definitely, an advocate for all of that. So I definitely get what it's like to try to find that line. It's hard, but once you find it, you find it.
And your love of women's wrestling, I mean, that's one of the reasons why I was like, okay, I know he's the one for me. Because I remember when we first started talking, he was talking about all these women's wrestlers, and he brought up Taylor Wilde. And for some reason, my mind just like went blank, and I did not remember her. And he was like, "You don't remember Taylor Wilde?" So, okay, he knows his stuff. He's just not like Googling names, like Hulk Hogan, John Cena, the bigger names. But it's also one of the reasons that we became friends with you is because Logan wanted to go down to the BellaDonna show down in Gadsden, Alabama. And because of that, when we came down there, I thankfully got booked on that. Kate Dillon, she needed somebody, and we had known her before that from her coming up for the IWA production shows.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me if I would be on the show, and I was like, yes, I'll get my license, I'll do all this, I'll get on there as soon as I can.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's how we met you. So meeting people and the opportunities that have come out of this, like I'm very thankful for your love of women's wrestling.
Yeah, and the thing about being with Casey and being a part of BellaDonna is just the fact that it's really like an all-female thing, and it's very empowering in the sense that you have women running the company and telling the stories, and and even with me on commentary, even though I did just start last year, it's just the idea of being a part of something that cool, and then to be a part of it even in my home state. That's what makes it even better, because it's like I'm not from Gaston, I'm from Birmingham, so that's like 2 or 3 hours away from Gaston, but still just being a part of something like that, it's amazing. And I'm so glad that you guys can appreciate it, and just loving being a part of it as well. So it's great. And I'm so glad that wrestling brought you guys together. So it's funny, Dexter, you said that him loving women's wrestling was how you found out he was the one. So Logan, how did you know that Dexter was the one?
Oh,
how did you know I was the one?
Well, I mean, honestly, doesn't even have to deal with wrestling or anything in general. When we met, though, I just got out of like over a 3-year-long engagement. So I was like unsure of where I was going, what I was doing at all. And I think a lot of it was just the patience and the love that did get showed and the caring, because, my relationship wasn't the best. So I didn't get a lot of what someone should get from, a significant other. It got kind of dark at times. And he showed me a complete different side of how I should be treated and how, we should treat each other. So, I mean, that's really why I fell in love with him. But, wrestling helped.
That's beautiful.
And at the time, like, I lived in Illinois, he lived in Indiana. So it was like, what was it, about 2.5 hours?
2.5 hours and a time change.
Yeah, time change. So, like, we would video chat each other every night. Like, anytime I had a show, he would come up and come to the shows with me. When I didn't have one, I would come there and be with him. So it took a lot of hard work and dedication. I mean, just like how with wrestling, you need to put in the hard work and dedication. You have to do that with a relationship if it means something to you. And obviously it does. And here we are.
Right. That's beautiful that you guys were able to do that. Even with wrestling, as an added bonus, and then, just putting in the work to make it work. And it is hard to put in the work, especially when you've been in a relationship that wasn't exactly the healthiest for you. I've been there. It takes a lot to sort of, push past what you've been through in the past in order to try to make it work with this person who is definitely showing you something different and showing you that you are worthy of the right type of love and the healthiest type of love. And I'm so glad that you guys found that in each other and then found it, within a hobby and even made it work via long distance.
Oh, yeah.
And that's so crazy that you said it that's long distance, because even my relationship started long distance, except ours wasn't just 2.5 hours away. Ours was 6.
Oh,
Yeah, because even though we're both from Birmingham, I was in school in Kentucky. And he was down here. And we had met each other a few years before, but then we started connecting and talking to each other about wrestling, on social media. And that's how it started happening. And we decided that what we needed in each other, was there along with wrestling and stuff. And we weren't trying to get together. We weren't trying to make something happen, but it just happened. And we just had that chemistry there. And once we decided that we wanted to make it work with each other, it worked. We communicated. I saw him on all my breaks, unless, of course, I was doing something else on another break. But we still decided to make it work because we saw that it was worth it in each other. And it's great. And we're still together. And it's just, a beautiful thing. So, and this was before I even started, my whole wrestling life now.
Yeah.
So we basically have had our groove and we're just building more bricks and,
more
stuff
bricks
together.
More bricks in that foundation.
Yes, on that foundation, and then we'll have a big house at some point. But yeah, it's working out, and I love that, for you guys, and I love that for us. It's so great.
Yeah.
Okay. It's wonderful. So who do you guys, have as a top 5 in terms of wrestlers, male or female or non-binary?
Like favorite wrestlers to watch in general and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite wrestler is Jeff Hardy. Like he's one of my favorites. Like I remember whenever I first started, like my very first match, I literally had 4 hours notice before having that match. So I had these black trip pants and I paired it with like a green shirt and everything like that. So you can see where my inspiration came from.
Right.
It was awful.
Oh, shut up. But no, like just the way the crowd reacts to him and like the style that he works, like he's probably one of my favorites. But then I also like Finn Balor. It's a lot of the action figures that we collect are people that we enjoy. You'll collect all the women's wrestlers. Like I try to collect all the ones of the wrestlers that I enjoy the most. So like
I'm like snatch. Just give me them all.
So as far as that, like probably Jeff Hardy, Finn Balor, Macho Man, Sting, and Ultimate Warrior probably are my top ones that I enjoy watching and collecting figure wise.
Okay. You, Logan?
I've actually had a really big change here recently. I like my mainstream, WWE has always been, Trish Stratus and Lita. Those has been like my 2 favorites. I love Jeff and Rey Mysterio, and now we got Alexa Bliss in there. Love her, but now that I've gotten so much more involved with wrestling and being on the independent scenes and stuff, like I love Shalance Royale. She is so awesome. It doesn't hurt that we have a relationship outside of wrestling, and she's got the greatest personality ever.
Yes.
But I love watching her and just seeing her in the ring. So she definitely gets to make like my top 5 now, and like I love watching Kylan King. See her at NWA Empower. I love that.
Yes.
I love Melina. Always have really liked Melina.
Mickey James.
When
she came out at the Royal Rumble, even though you knew she was in it, he was just like,
Yeah. Yes, like the minute you heard hardcore country, that was
I was
it.
oh gone. I was done for after that. And then like even getting to meet Hollywood Haley J that wrestles at OVW. I love her. She's so funny. She's a wild character. I'm getting such an expansion on like some of my favorite people just from meeting him and trying to like push him to go to more independent shows outside of Illinois. There's just so many now. And then it's awesome too that, you know, BellaDonna does work with IWA out of Mount Vernon, and they have division. And so I'm getting to meet more and more women. So I'm just like, oh, there's more here. Can we go meet them now? I don't want to see everybody else. I want to go meet them. Get out of my way.
Yes, I totally get it because I know being in the wrestling business for me, it's really great, you know, meeting all of these people who may not necessarily be as mainstream famous, but then it's just like you see them working towards, you know, whatever their goals are. And then when you meet them and you see them, it's really cool, you know, especially when you realize, you know, how human and how down to earth they are, you know, just like you. It's amazing. And it's like so many people you mentioned who were at Empower. And then another way we're connected is the fact that you were there and I was there as a media correspondent for Women's Wrestling Talk. Like, that's so insane. We were there together and had no clue.
No idea.
No idea about each other.
He surprised me with the tickets, and I think I about had a panic attack.
Probably.
When are we leaving? Let's go now.
Yes, and I had to go for work. I knew I really did want to go, but I wasn't sure. But then once I finally, you know, did put forth the effort and was there, that was one of the most amazing experiences of my life.
Oh my gosh, yes. I was so mad too because he got to touch Gail Kim and I didn't, and I was so jealous.
Oh.
He was going around high-fiving everybody. And like we had moved up front and like she like grabbed onto my hand and everything, and then Logan just like, oh,
I was about dead.
So then we moved spots and then nobody else came around.
Oh my God, that's so crazy. But Logan, since we're talking about that, what was your favorite moment from Empower since you were there too? Actually, both of you, what was your favorite moment?
My favorite was actually getting to see Melina live for the first time. Like, I hated it when she left WWE. I was so sad because I enjoyed her a lot and always wanted to see her live. And I mean, I was just as excited to see Mickie James and Gail Kim live and Awesome Kong coming out, and then getting to see a lot of the independent people that were on the show as well. But just to see Melina live standing right there in front of me, I was just like, Melina! She heard me. She just looked at me and she pointed. I was just like, oh, I think I died a little bit. And then I watched back YouTube, like videos on YouTube of the show, and like I can hear myself yelling over everybody else. I had no voice for like 3 days after that, but it was totally worth it.
Yeah.
Probably for me, the Awesome Kong retiring. Like, while it was happening, I didn't even realize it was happening until I read reports later on. But I was like, just that moment between her and Gail Kim, like with the storied history that they have, but putting on some of the best matches in MMA, not just for the women, but in general, putting on some of the that was a cool moment. And then seeing a few people that I've worked on shows with, like Marty Bell. Like, she came down for one of IWA production shows, and we really got talking to her and getting to know her and everything, and she's great. And then Tootie Lynn Ramsey.
Oh, yes. Love Tootie.
The little blue dragon. I remember I've worked a few shows with her on Cape Championship Wrestling out of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. So seeing her get that reaction that she got, that was a great moment for me, just because I know how much hard work that she's put into it.
The goosebumps in that room. Her music hit and she came out. I was like, it gives me goosebumps thinking about it now.
Yes, everybody went crazy for her, and I had never heard of her up until that point. So being at Empower was a learning experience for me because outside of a lot of the other major stars, there were some people there who I also hadn't heard of, up until that point.
Yeah.
But just the idea of everybody going crazy for her and her being from St. Louis too, like it was just the most coolest moment ever. And I really think I feel like that's tied as my top moment from that whole thing because of the fact that she was literally like the second one, like she was a part of the final two with Chelsea Green. And I wanted her to win so bad.
I did too.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I wanted her to win so bad. But I mean, Chelsea won, and now Chelsea Green is great. Like I love Chelsea Green, and everything she's offering and stuff. But it's just like if Tootie had won, that would have been everything. And I'm so happy that she was actually able to be a guest on my show, a little bit after that, because we met and connected too. So I've interviewed her twice.
Oh.
So just being able to meet her and see her in action, that was cool. And that entire elimination match was amazing. Like that was so amazing. Like I could not. I felt like it was just you could feel all the girl power in the room.
Oh yeah.
It was like you could just touch it, you can taste it. Like that's really how it felt. And it's just every time I think about Empower, I just think about it just makes me, sort of just think about how anything's really possible, in wrestling, for women as a whole.
Oh yeah.
And then just being there for Women's Wrestling Talk and being able to interview people, like that was just really great. And oh my God, it was great. And the more I think about it, the more it makes me want to cry. But I'm not gonna do it today.
Well, then I was really excited too because we were standing outside waiting to go in and the group from Ring the Bell.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I watch you.
Yes, and that was my first time meeting them too. Like literally, like there were so many friendships made.
Oh yeah.
Off of that one weekend, and it was so cool. And it's people that I love and respect. And whenever I see them on TV from time to time, I'm like, hey, there you go. It's so cool. Like I love it so much.
And speaking of WA, one of our friends that both done a podcast, he's wanting us to come on to his podcast with his wife, and we're going to watch along to NWA Empower since we were all there. So we're going to get to relive all that and kind of share our experiences. So we're looking forward to doing that as well.
Oh, that sounds great. I haven't rewatched it since then, but I feel like if I did, I would just be a hot mess and just be a puddle of tears.
He's going to.
Oh my God. It'll just be too much. I'll just cry throughout the whole thing. So I guess I can ask the both of you this one question. Who are your dream opponents?
Oh gosh. I mean, like I mentioned, Jeff Hardy's my favorite wrestler, so I would love to get in the ring with him just to say that I have. But around this area, I'm trying to think of anybody because, for the longest time, I kind of limited myself to the Southern Illinois area. So I've worked with a lot of the same people.
Ooh, I got one.
But probably one person, like I had a tag match against him, but Austin Lane. He like a guy, met him at a Cape Championship Wrestling, and he would be probably one that I would like to work a match with.
Okay. And you, Logan?
I'm wearing them right now, actually. Exotic Youth.
Oh, okay.
I think they would be fun to get into the ring with.
Okay. Are they a tag team or are they just...
They are a tag team.
Okay.
We got to meet them. They're actually a trio. They're a trio. We got to meet them when we went to the Gulf Shores down at Navarre, Florida. And you got onto one of the shows over in... What town was that? It's right next door.
Gosh, I can't think of what town it is.
It was like literally 20 minutes down the road. I actually messaged Casey about if she knew any promoters down there and if she could get us some information so that we could message him. And we got him booked on a show while we were on vacation. And I got to meet the Exotic Youth. And I mean, they were just kind of fun. I just kind of like their whole kind of wild party boys.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny with that vacation, like you were going to try to surprise me with getting me a booking, like have all my gear in the back and let me know it. And like a day or two before, I'm like, I wonder if I could get on a show down there. He was like, well, dang it. I was going to try to surprise you with it, but.
Okay. Those are pretty great choices. So I'm definitely looking forward to anything that you guys have going on in your future. Just a couple more questions. One question that I do have is, how important is it to you to be a representative of the LGBTQIA plus community in wrestling?
Well, it's like how we mentioned earlier about just educating people. I think the more that people know that, hey, this character that I see on here is a part of the LGBTQ plus community, and it's not hindering them and they're not being down on. I think that sends a powerful message.
Mm-hmm.
And there needs to be more of that. And like Logan said earlier, it's all about education. And it's like, if you don't understand something, ask. Because like how you mentioned, or like we talked earlier before we started recording, it's like you asked if there was anything we were uncomfortable with. Like, I'm an open book. So like there's not very many things that I won't talk about. So if somebody comes to me and like really just has an urge to know, like, please educate me on this, I'll be more than happy to.
Okay, that's a pretty solid answer. And Logan, did you want to add to that?
I mean, I just think it's important, just the fact that, whether we become stars or we don't become stars, but, just that we get, our message out there that you can be a part of the LGBTQ plus community and you can be successful in the professional wrestling world. Like, I mean, I am not successful yet. I mean, I just started. I mean, he's been doing it for 5 years and we're just now starting to get him some more notoriety out there and getting noticed by some bigger companies that are wanting him to come in and start working. So, I mean, we're still working on ourselves to get a little bit bigger, but I think just being able to be a representative and show people that you can go for your dream, no matter, what you do or who you are or what you love. I just want people to be like, just see me as me and be excited that, hey, I'm like that person. I could go and do that too.
Pretty solid answers there. And I have no doubt that the both of you will reach all of your goals after, working really hard for them and be that, shining light for those who feel, seen by you. So I believe that's really important. And I believe that you guys will reach that. So my final question is, what does the future hold for you, Dexter, and you, Logan, as a couple and also as wrestlers?
For a couple, be together forever. But for my career in wrestling, I just want to continually keep getting better. Like, I could say, oh, I want to go to WWE or I want to go to AEW, but honestly, for me, I don't have aspirations to go that far. Now, if it happens, I'm not going to turn it down.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to keep doing this as long as I'm having fun and happy doing it. I would love to go to some higher known places and get to meet more people and just make better friendships out of it. I think that's what I want out of it.
I just honestly, like, it's so new for me that I'm still kind of seeing where that future does lead. I want to be successful at it. I want to be good at it. I want to be able to, travel around a little bit, go to a couple different places. And my thing is, I've really enjoyed meeting all of the people that I've gotten to meet and the relationships that I've gotten to create through it. So that's the biggest thing for me is just meeting all these people, creating these great relationships, and I feel like I don't necessarily think everybody looks at it this way, but I always look at it now, within the wrestling community, that's somebody that you have to call on. Like if you're having a hard time or, you're down on yourself or feeling bad, like, there's people that you can get a hold of and talk to and that are going to help you feel better. And it's just it's the whole community part is really my biggest thing that I love.
Well said. Well, thank you, both of you, Dexter and Logan, for coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast. I'm so glad to have had you both during this Love Week. So if you don't mind telling everyone where they can find you or anything else that you've got going on, where they can follow you on socials, and you may do so now.
Well,
I'll let you go that. You handle most of it.
I handle most of the social media, but you can find him on Facebook as Dexter Roswell. He does have an Instagram that we're working on getting up, and it's also as Dexter Roswell. And then we both have Twitter. He is Dexter Roswell on Twitter as well. His booking is on there. And then I'm on Twitter as Logan Roswell. So feel free to come and find us, ask us questions, invite us out.
You won't be disappointed if you have us on your show.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming on the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, and hopefully I can have you both back at some point to see how you're doing and how you've evolved and stuff. Like, that would be really cool.
We appreciate you having us on here, and for any time in the future.
Yeah, definitely.